Hey all, sorry I can't be there today, but I do want to give a quick overview before you start the lesson. After you completed the starter, you'll see here on obviously the issues that are facing Mexico in the mid 1800s as they were writing the 1857 Constitution, which was really like the beginning of attempts at La Reforma or the reform, was to break up the large landed estates and provide land to the landless poor. That was like one of the main movements, and that was also to support, as you can see at the bottom there, like democracy. Like, how can a democracy work if people are uneducated and landless? So, this is sort of the reform end of things on a political spectrum that I wanted to talk about today, which on the right side has conservative, in the middle is reform, and on the left are your more radicals, your Marxists, your communists, your anarchists. So, this is the 1857 Constitution, which will ignite the Reform Wars, which we'll talk about in a moment. Eventually, the French invasion of Mexico, which will be rebuffed by Benito Juarez. And then finally, a new revolution that will begin in 1917 after the Porfirio era, which will lead to the 1910 revolution and then the 1917 Constitution. Uh, if you review the 1917 Constitution, you can look here. You could just pause and think about this question and answer it. So hopefully you paused. The problems addressed here are, of course, breaking up land, reducing the power of the church, and also helping the industrial workers, something you might be reminded of from the Russian Revolution yesterday. So you can see here labor and social issues really addressing the urban industrial issues, whereas the land issues are addressing the issues for the rural poor in Mexico in the 1917 Constitution. So how do we get from the 1857 Constitution that was really embattled to the 1917 Constitution and modern Mexico? Well, this brings us to our mural, which I'll remind you in the center here, of course, is the emblem of Mexico, the conquistadors, and the Aztec or the Mexica down here. Father Miguel Hidalgo, central to this. What we'll be talking about today actually spans the other top portion of this from Benito Juarez and La Reforma in 1857 to the Porfirio era and the dictatorship of Porfirio, and then to the Mexican Revolution of 1910, Zapata, Pancho Villa, Tierra y Libertad. And there's kind of right there. So you can see here, and it expands out even further in this image where you get the American invasion, which was, of course, the Spanish-American War, which happened well before the time period of La Reforma, and then the French rule, which happened later and was actually expelled with the help of aid from the United States to Benito Juarez's embattled government. So Benito Juarez and La Reforma, really, I'll let you just pause and look at La Reforma here in the Constitution of 1857. So what you can see is Benito Juarez was really, he came in actually as a judiciary. He was in the judicial branch and began the reform, but there was such a conservative backlash to La Reforma that the government that Juarez was part of had to flee Mexico City. This began the Reform Wars, where conservatives wanted to go against the liberal reforms. They were sided with the Catholic Church as well. They brought in Prince Maximilian from Austria-Hungary with the help of the French in order to try and consolidate their power and really reestablish an empire and a monarchy. But with, again, as I said, by 1867 American support, the Reform Wars came to an end when Juarez's liberals were able to push back against the conservative. Now, this would seem a great victory, and you get the triumph of the Republic in 1857. This is when Juarez returns, claims the presidency. He's sort of the symbol of Mexico, and he will give this speech, The Triumph of the Republic, on July 15th, 1867. It says 57 there. Sorry, it's 1867. Sadly, soon after this, Juarez will pass away and be replaced by a conservative dictatorship, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I would like you to pause the video. You might have to come back to it, and then I'd like you to open the exit ticket tab, and there is a 5.2 mid ticket. And I'd like you to complete that mid ticket, which is a reading of parts of the Triumph of the Republic and 5 multiple choice questions. I'd like you to do that on your own, please. What I'm going to do with your exit tickets this week is I'm planning to average out your results for all the tickets for a score this week, and give you feedback on that hopefully tomorrow or early next week. So if you want to pause the video and complete the 5.4 mid exit ticket, that'd be great. So hopefully from the Triumph of the Republic, you can see that what Benito Juarez was really trying to claim was that not only are they now ushering in democracy, they also are being conciliatory to the defeated conservatives. So he has to really toe the line between what the conservatives want and what the reformers want. But really, he's trying to establish that we are a democracy at this point. This is a triumph of democracy, hence the triumph of the republic. However, Benito Juarez will pass away, sadly, and be replaced by Porfirio Diaz. I'll ask you to watch this video in a moment. There'll be a couple other videos, so I'm going to go through this part more quickly. And when we're finished, return to this slide and watch this video about Porfirio Diaz and his conservative government. Repressive, supporting large landowners, as you saw from the video, as you'll see from the video, and a very corrupt government. But it lasts a long time. It's a phase that's known as the Porfiriato, several other names as well. But because it lasts for over 30, 40 years. And is a large time period in early modern Mexico as dictatorship. But this will lead to the Mexican Revolution when Francisco Madero will challenge Diaz and release his plan of San Luis Potosi, which really calls for more than anything democratic reforms. But he's very much just a liberal, moderate reformer. He believes the elite and the educated need to lead the way for the poor. He fears radicals. He's afraid that communist ideology will overthrow the capitalist democracy. He wants support from the U.S. from the north, so he's hoping to have a moderate path that the U.S. will support in this revolution. Pancho Villa in the north will be working with him, and in the south, Emiliano Zapata, who is the rebel leader in the south, Cordero de South. Emiliano Zapata is in the south, and he's also fighting. Zapata is really fighting for the landless poor. Pancho Villa, his motivations are a little less clear, but Zapata really will take the reins as the great legacy of the revolutionary leadership in Mexico. So these radical revolutionaries, Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata, they will continue to fight against Madero. Madero will be assassinated, and then Zapata and Villa will continue to fight because they want to nationalize land reform and nationalize industry. And the new leader that takes place, Carranza, he is going to continue the fight until Zapata and Villa are defeated. Before they're truly defeated, a new constitution will be formed that is really a great compromise between the reformers and the radicals and their vision. And that's what you see in the Constitution of 1917 that we started the lesson with. As I mentioned, Zapata will continue to fight against against Madero and Carranza. He will actually release a plan of Ayala, which will see Madero as sort of a apologist for the Diaz government, and he will try to radicalize the people against that. But then Carranza is going to come in and moderate that through bringing political compromise that does not so much nationalize industry, but does allow for a lot of workers' rights in the industrial areas and does attempt to break up those large landed estates. So really what we get here is a Mexico that is torn across the ideological line from conservative reactionaries like Diaz to the liberal reformers like Carranza and Madero. And on the far left in our mural that we've seen before, and this is sort of a side panel of that mural, you've got Zapata, who was working with the campesinos and the oppressed workers, and even the modern movements like Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, who made this mural, who really bring in Marxist tendencies. Zapata, not even like Leninist tendencies, like truly trying to bring about a grassroots revolution. So another video, if you have time at the end, that I'd like you to watch is this video about Mexico in World War I. It does a really good summary of this time period. But the last thing I'd like you to do is on the back of your paper, beyond the slide notes, there is a short reading that I'd just like you to read through that gives you a sense of how the current president of Mexico in 2019 really brought about the legacy of Zapata and tried to uplift Zapata's legacy in memory, Luis Obrador. And then there is a final exit ticket that will have you read part of the Plan of Aella and do sort of a synthesis, compare, contrast with 5 multiple choice questions. I will put the codes for those. I forgot to put the codes up, but I'll put the codes for those 2 exit tickets on the board for you. And then that's really all you need to complete for today. Please do watch that Diaz video from a little bit earlier. And then, like I said, if you finish the reading and the exit ticket, both exit tickets, then I would recommend watching this Mexico World War One. We've talked. And just a reminder that you should have the 7475 AMSCO that's due on Monday. I will be back tomorrow. And there's also this really incredible website, if you have time, which looks at the Diego mural and kind of breaks it all down in the Palace Museum and allows you to even examine and explore it in sort of 3D there. So I would highly recommend watching that as well. All right, again, I'm sorry I can't be there today. Iris is just not feeling well, and oddly enough, it's my birthday today, and I was looking forward to being at school for that because I'm a weirdo. So, miss you all, and I hope you have a great day.